Okay, guys. In between snacks, this is our final book club meeting. So, in the previous 3 meetings, we have talked about in depth about each chapter and what each chapter contains. So this book club meeting, I thought it'd be a good idea if we talked about the different ways that blogs, wikis, podcasts, and all the things contained within the book can be used in our classrooms, seeing as how we're all going to be teachers. So feel free to bring out any key points of the book or any ideas that you have personally which would aid in giving us ideas for the future classrooms to use these technological advances. Okay.
Well, I like the chapter on podcasting because, as we all know, it's just an audio recording of any topic that other students or teachers or anyone around the world can view. And it's a good idea for kids to incorporate this because they can be creative doing poetry lessons or learning vocabulary, and teachers can read the books when you're recording it at home. They can follow along with their book from the teacher's voices, and I think it's really good because you can use it it's very versatile, and you can use it for any subject, any topic.
That's actually what Amanda and I did for our podcast, is that we read one of the books, and then we didn't delete out any time that it took to turn the pages, because that way you knew that the students, when they were following along, they'd have time to turn the pages also. So we thought that was a really good idea.
We also used our podcast as a chance to get the students to think, because we didn't get to finish reading the whole story. So we took that chance, that time that we had left to get the students thinking about what might happen next, and then even the next day in class that you guys, the teacher could approach that again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the students will have questions, the students will have answers.
Sorry. Also, because parents can see, check on what their kids are learning and show their relatives that never get to see him, this is what he's learning, and listen to him read the poem he made up.
He's so smart.
Exactly. So they could just be included in his life, even though they're not there.
And the book mentioned that it's just pretty much a way to give all children a voice through the internet.
Mm-hmm.
That way they can do, since it can be anything or any subject or anything, that a student, we would just be responsible for teaching them how to use it. So, any more on podcasts?
No, I think we got that.
Okay, let's move on to wikis, which is something we have done over and over and over in classes and read about in the book. So does anybody want to mention any ideas that the books gave for using wiki in the classroom?
Well, I read that the wikis, the author thought that a good way to use those in the classroom would be for students to go over their peers' work. And it teaches them some revision tactics, and it also teaches them how to produce appropriate comments, have a good reason why they would change something, how it could be better. I can't think of the word what that's called, but
Improving.
Yeah, no, the constructive criticism.
But I didn't know if that was what you were looking for.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. And then another example I read about, not necessarily in this book, but somewhere else, is that students use wikis sometimes if they're reading a book or a novel in classes for the older students, and use the wiki as a sort of glossary of terms and concepts that they don't understand. Then they have to go into these words and concepts. They have to find an appropriate answer that not only helps them understand, but it helps the other students in their class understand.
Okay. Does anybody want to go any further? I'm not sure what the next one we were going to discuss.
How about Flickr?
Yeah.
Flickr. Well, I had never heard about Flickr before the book, but I actually learned it's an online digital album. So I think it would be cool to use in the classroom. You could put up pictures of what you've been doing, so parents can...
Like a dot photo or photo bucket thing?
Yeah, basically like the same kind of thing.
I have one of those.
So it's a good way for parents to see what's going on in the classroom, I think. Very cool.
Yeah. And you could, too, that's a good way for the student to be like, okay, this is what we did in class today. We had this major project that maybe their parents saw that they were preparing for, that they can actually go into this website and see the pictures from that project. So they know that everything that they've been doing has not been for nothing.
For nothing. It's also to keep in mind that some students, you're not allowed to take pictures of the actual students.
Oh,
So
yeah,
I think
that's
it's a good way to use photography for projects, like Erin said, versus, I mean, we all want to take pictures of the students having a good old time in class. But it gives a purpose to digital photography in the classroom as well.
Okay, moving right along. Actually, Amanda, you have a really good quote about blogs that we forgot to mention in one of the...
I did have a really good quote from blogs and about in the book. It's really fun because it rhymes, and it's something you could even explain to your students. You could even have it posted in your classroom because it's just fun.
And just for legal reasons, this is actually coming from... You want to...
It's actually from Will Richardson, from the book that we read. There are blogs about dogs and frogs, even people who wear clogs. There are flying blogs and frying blogs, crying blogs and dying blogs. That's good. And basically what that quote says is that blogs are about everything and anything that you could possibly think about, and you can use them in your classroom as just. You could have blogs about what the students are doing in class. You could have blogs about information to keep the parents updated. It's just so open. You can use blogs for anything.
And you can use that at any age, and it's for anything. It doesn't matter your nationality or race or anything. That's what it says in the book. Just restating what it says. They're looking at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah, I think it's a great tool because it's not only a tool for allowing children to become more involved in technology, which is something that's going to be a very big part of their life. I think it's a good thing to have for parents and aunts and uncles, as we mentioned on the podcast, that they have a resource to go to see what's going on with the class, important dates, pretty much anything that's going on with the class. It's just a really good tool to have.
I think it's good. And anything. You can do blogs about anything.
Yeah.
The next thing that we have to talk about is the internet itself. I know we've discussed the internet in terms of producing blogs and podcasts and all of the other technology things that we will be using in the classroom. But the internet itself can be used for the students for like research, but the students will also need to learn what they need to look for on the internet, because the internet, it's so big and it's only getting bigger that a student or a teacher or a parent could get lost in the internet trying to find the right information.
Which reminds me about, one part of the book where it was talking about internet safety and how important it is within the classroom to make sure, which I know in the school that my mother works at, that the internet is very, very well monitored. And there are certain sites that you cannot go to. Students cannot just go to check their email at any spot or any place. That it's really important, to make sure that you're monitoring what your students are doing on the internet.
It's all educational and safe and reliable.
Yeah, and I mean, it's what we've been talking about with blogs and wikis and podcasts. All of those things need to be used as educational resources instead of using them necessarily for just recreational purposes and everything. The students need to understand and see that they have very good education.